Hey guys, it's Vince. Today we're going to be discussing a solution to a problem that many of us have faced with our personal CNC equipment. And I can tell you, I've come from full-scale automation and I faced it with full-scale equipment as well. And that's EMI step and direction contamination. Many of you guys have experienced problems with your machine where it'll cut one product one time fine, then you change substrates, you go from like a wood to an aluminum, maybe you switch over to 6061, and all of a sudden you notice the machine is acting up. Some guys attribute it to, oh well, the temperature change, the machine's cold, so when it warms up it'll do this. 9 out of 10 times it leads you down the rabbit hole. You'll get on a forum, and that's what, of course, you'll hit CNC Zone or one of these other, sites that you're hoping to find an answer to. You'll post your response, you'll post your question, and within 4 to 6 hours, hopefully someone responds. Typically, it ends up into a Ford Chevy debate. It turns into a giant pissing match, and then on top of that, you'll get another guy at random tell you, not only give you his opinion, but tell you what you're doing wrong, and you typically end up leaving more confused and pissed off because now you've wasted all this time, and no one can give you a definitive answer, including the vendors of the products, of what you're actually dealing with. YouTube wants to make everything into, you just connect from here to here and everything should be perfect. Every video I've seen on YouTube is the same thing. It's always, just connect this and then connect it to that, and you should be plugging in and ready to make $100,000 a year. Guys, it doesn't work that way. Okay, reality is you're dealing with unseen forces that can contaminate that motion that's going to your motors. And if those step and direction signals get contaminated on their way to the motors, you're screwed. That's putting it mildly. Okay, you'll pull your hair out, you'll kick your dog, you'll beat your wife, whatever it takes. It'll drive you crazy. And I'm telling you now, listen to me on this. All the guys out there are saying, well, you know what, I'm going to overbuild my system, and a lot of guys say that to me. I'm overbuilding. I'm using heavy duty 8-gauge connectors, and I'm doing this. Look, I've said this before, you're not wiring your house. This is electronic equipment. It's very sensitive. Any type of interference, it's very sensitive to. Okay, we're only dealing with a 5-volt signal from our breakout board to our drives. If that signal gets corrupted, those pulses get corrupted, you're screwed. So what I've decided to do, mainly for my guys who are dealing with import systems. Again, we know China right now is flooding the market with a lot of these systems that look beautiful. I have to say the truth, and I hate to say that, but they really look nice. And I think that's why my clients, and most of them, they'll look at them and go, man, they look really good. And they'll send me pictures, and the wiring looks great, and they label everything. And I mean, their engineers or techs or whoever's doing these jobs, they look really good. The unfortunate side is, where the money is missing is in the shielding and the grounding to make sure that that equipment functions as it should. It's not just a question of quality of components, guys. A solder joint's a solder joint. If it's not built the way it should, implementing it, the idea of making it as bulletproof as possible for those step and direction signals, you're screwed. I can't emphasize it enough, and that's why I say, do it right. If you're going to overbuild, understand the animal you're getting involved with and overbuild it to the animal. You're not building a house. You're not sitting there rewiring your room. You're rewiring a CNC. And in order to do that, you want to make sure you're understanding the equipment we're working with. And when we deal with a drive, when we deal with a breakout board, once again, you're only dealing with a 5-volt signal typically. Some boards use 24 volts, so on and so forth. Again, the higher the voltage, the cleaner the signal. We can get into that debate. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is what's been missing is a way to actively filter the step and direction signals. And why I say actively filter is we know shielded cable has been around a while. Guys that are purchasing systems overseas know that, they'll see, and I'm typically talking about the novices here, they'll see what they're getting, they look at it, and they're so excited to get their equipment. Then when they find they have problems, and then they call me and say, hey, what do I need to do? I don't understand what's going on here. And I'm like, well, you should try starting by actually using shielded cable on your system. It scares the hell out of them. And it's understandable. So what I wanted to do is make a way so that they could get basically the same effect, if not a better effect, by actively filtering the step and direction signals in a plug-and-play cable. Okay? And what you have here on terminal block 8 and terminal block 9, terminals for direction and step on this G201X Gecko drive, is actively filtered silicone ferrule installed cables. They are actually using ferrite cable cores from Kemet, And on both ends, again, these cables are only 12 inches in length. I can make them in any custom length we have to do for your system. And you now have actively filtered step and direction signals. So we have one here once again going into the drive, and then we have one over here once again going into the breakout board. So on both ends, you're having filtering done. The longer we go with our cables, of course, we would increase the amount of ferrites used to give us active filtration. Now, most of my guys out there who are in audio already understand, man, that makes sense because we use them, with our equipment, USB plugs, all the older plugs on a computer. If you look at monitor plugs, DB15, so on and so forth, you'll find ferrites installed. We don't see them actively used too much when it comes to CNC. And I think that'll change in time. But it's one of the things that I wanted to change because I feel that this method will work extremely well when it comes to doing retrofits on not just pulling out your drives for the guys that have the Chinese systems, but allowing them to install filtered actual cables in their system to begin with, which I think is something that, a lot of guys then won't be as afraid to tackle that job. Not only that, it's an easy fix for guys that already have a system in place, whether it be American again or Chinese, and to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to try that and see if that works. 90% of the time it will make a difference, guys. I mean, we're never going to totally eliminate EMI. We try to drop it to a level that will not affect our system. And the unfortunate side, and I say this all the time, the unfortunate side is that if you think you have no problems right now, and you think it's bulletproof, and then a month goes by or a week goes by, I mean, the duration of time, who knows when it will present itself, but if it ever pops up that you destroy a piece of equipment, or I should say a piece of substrate, hopefully not a piece of equipment, but if the event ever pops up that happens, you'll kick yourself for the price of these, okay? For $15, actually $15.50, I'll be selling the two of them for. They're handmade cables. Once again, they are soldered. They are soldered and crimped. Okay, so we have the lowest possible resistance we can get. I see a lot of guys that are actually doing nothing but, crimping, and I'm not a big fan of that. We're not installing, car audio plugs here. We're building a CNC controller. So therefore, we have to look at it from that perspective, and I think that's extremely important that, we realize we're dealing with a different resistance level than we care about with a car. So I look at that way. I would much rather go with a solder joint. Again, you're doing this once, you want it done right. A lot of guys just want a plug and play solution, and that's essentially what we've come up here. I mean, this will guarantee that at least at this point, whatever you guys encounter with the system, it's something that now I've already touched base on this. I know my step and direction signals, at least inside the controller itself, they're as bulletproof as possible. Okay, I mean, another option, and I have guys I know that are overthinking, they'll say, on a 12-inch cable, why don't we could put 3 on here. You could put as many as you like, I mean, technically, but I can tell you right now, 2 seems to be very effective, and it will make a difference on a plug-and-play setup, especially with the systems coming in from overseas. From the guy who doesn't want to tear his whole system apart, doesn't want to invest in new drives, all he wants to do is invest in clean signals, and if he's already taken the time to reshield his motor cables, which really isn't too hard to do. That's actually a pretty quick and easy thing to do. These make it all too easy to really clean up the inside of your system. I mean, first of all, these are a hell of a lot easier to work with than shielded cable. They're extremely flexible using silicone cable. On top of the fact, they're extremely high heat resistance. I mean, the flexibility of these, you can move them anywhere you like. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like I said, in 12-inch format, that gives you optimal length as far as how you want to run them. If you need them smaller, you need them larger. Again, there's no cookie cutter in CNC. You contact me and we can get them made virtually in any way you want. Again, time permitting. There will be a lead time with these, of course, if you get into multitudes of models. I know I'm going to have a lot of guys wanting to do retrofits, so that's something to think about. But again, hopefully this has enlightened you. I mean, and again, make you really look at where I'm going with this. It's not just about selling equipment, guide. It's not just about offering a new breakout board or coming out with the latest stepper driver. It's really about taking what technology we have, whether it be now and future, and making you guys have the most bulletproof production models that you can have. And that's really what it is. It doesn't matter what drives you own. If your signals are getting corrupt, they're getting corrupt on the best or the cheapest. So think in terms of that. Let's do it right from the beginning. And again, I hope that this will help a lot of guys out there. I know for a fact, I wish I would have come up with this sooner. I really feel that way, because it's one of those ideas that I think really like hits guys in the head and like, wow, that makes sense. You know, why not use an EMI filter on the step and direction signals, and that would really, you know, degrade any possibility of signal contamination. And on top of that, you wouldn't have to deal with all that extra shielded cable, especially when you're dealing in confined areas. Shielded cable is tough as hell to bend. You have to splice it all. You have to do, I mean, it's a mess. It's a nightmare. If you've worked with it and you know what I'm talking about, the guys out there that are nodding, trust me. It's not, a lot of the guys on YouTube make it look easy, and for some guys it is, but for the majority, it scares them. It makes them, you know, what do I do with the leads? How do I deal with the mylar foil? You know, where do I drain everything? This is plug and play. These are really simple to install. Plug them in. Again, it's really up to the end user on the configuration. I just actually twined them together here just to make it nice and neat, but that gives you an idea of exactly where we're going. Once again, if you guys have any questions, please don't be afraid to ask. My name is Vince. I own eDealers Direct Automation. They shortened it on eBay. My email is storm, STORM 2313 at gmail.com. That is my personal email. Guys, I am getting more requests for phone calls. And actually, I'm requesting to do more phone calls because it's much faster, you know. And guys, when I schedule a phone call, please respect my time. You know, take notes on what I'm talking to you about, because again, it's a lot of money what you're spending to get involved in this. On top of the fact, you should want to learn. I'm hoping you want to learn this the right way. And, you know, take notes. If you have questions, no different if we schedule a call, you know, make a list of questions you want to ask me. The more we cover, the more you learn, the more effective everything is. And once again, that's what we're here to do. You know, empower you and make sure that your hard-earned money goes to what you're really trying to do. Okay. So once again, I'm Vince over at eDealers Direct Automation. Thank you guys. And if you do have any questions, please message me. Take care.